Hello, writers, and welcome to the Author Burnout Coach. Together, we will dismantle the burnout culture in book publishing and reclaim our love of stories. I am your host, Isabel Sterling, and this is episode 9. Hello, writers. Today, we're going to talk about something that affects nearly all writers at some point, the dreaded writer's block. You don't have to call it writer's block if that doesn't resonate with you, though. There are certainly different opinions on whether writer's block is even real. A common argument that I hear is that, surgeons don't get surgery block, so writer's block isn't a thing. Now, I'm not here to argue semantics. You can believe in it or not. You can call it writer's block, or you can just call it getting stuck, or not knowing yet where the story goes next, or simply just feeling uninspired. Either way, what I'm talking about is this main result, where you are staring at the blank page and you have no idea what happens next. You might try to write anyway, hoping that the ideas will come if you just get started, and sometimes that works, but other times forcing the words only makes it worse. So if this is you, do not fret. It happens to all of us at every stage of our writing careers in some way or another. And panicking about being blocked and thinking, oh my goodness, I'm never going to meet my deadline when I can't figure out what happens, that kind of panic and stress only makes it work. So, deep breath. We are going to get through this together. Now, there is a lot of advice about how to actually get over writer's block, but most of it skips an important component, and that is diagnosing why you're stuck. So that's where we will begin today. Over the course of writing 10 novels, I have found that the reasons I get stuck has shifted over time. And between that and what I've seen with my coaching clients, I've been able to distill the source of writer's block into 5 main causes. So even if you're not currently blocked, I do recommend that you still listen to this episode. Many of these causes of writer's block can also contribute to burnout if they're not addressed. So even if you are able to push through them and keep writing, it can contribute to burnout. And that's what we want to avoid here on the Author Burnout Coach. So let's get started. Cause number 1, your story is going in the wrong direction. These days, this tends to be my number 1 cause of writer's block, and it happens at least a few times with every book. If I find myself stuck on the same scene day after day after day, and every time I sit down to write, it just feels wrong and stilted, I know this is what's going on for me. For you, it might look a little different. Maybe you have this sense that something isn't right. Maybe your characters aren't speaking to you anymore, or they just their voices aren't coming through correctly. Or you might even just have this sort of unsettled feeling in your gut. When I recognize that this is the cause of my block, and for some frustrating reason, it always takes me 3 or 4 days to come to terms with the fact that this is indeed the problem, I tend to ask myself, okay, where was the last time this felt right? And I can go back a chapter or 2 and read through what I have. And if I can keep the judgment out of it and stay curious and open, I can usually sense the spot where I took a wrong turn. For me, it's usually because a character's emotional reaction was forced instead of authentic, and it sort of led us down the wrong sort of path of falling dominoes. So once I find the problem and I sort of delete everything that came after, fix that spot, the words will start to flow again. If you are new to writing and you're working on your first novel, you might not have the same sort of spidey sense to be able to do this, and that's okay. I definitely could not do this with my earlier novels, but the more I write, the more finely tuned my story intuition gets, and the quicker I can realize where I've gone off track. All right, cause number 2, which I think is very common, you are putting way too much pressure on yourself. This can be in lots of ways. It can happen at every stage of writing. This might be you if you find yourself worried the project will never sell, or that readers will hate it, or that this whole writing dream is a waste of time. This is also where perfectionism can creep in. Now, y'all know I love big goals. I say that probably every episode. But creativity is not a lump of coal just waiting to become a diamond. It's not looking for intense pressure. It's not conducive to the freedom and creativity that we need to tell stories. So we ask ourselves, what if writing could be fun? When we get too attached to the external goal, like get an agent, sell this project, hit a bestseller list, we can forget that writing is allowed to be fun. Friends, if it's not fun, why the fuck do we do it? If we put too much pressure on our first draft to be perfect, that pressure often stops us from writing at all. Or if we are able to create under this pressure, it wears away at us and leaves us very vulnerable to burnout. So if this is you, try to focus on enjoying the process of writing. You can want the external stuff, but focus on that later after you finish the first draft. Try to find the fun again. Try to enjoy just the act of writing. The third cause of writer's block is thinking that there's only one right solution. When you get caught in the trap of thinking that there's only one right way to tell a story, it can leave you feeling totally stuck, and it turns off your ability to be creative. So every idea you have, if you have any, feels terrible and not good enough. Your predominant thought about what comes next is, I have no fucking clue. The reason this is hard for us is that many of us have been conditioned through all of the decade plus of education to associate wrong answers with failure. And we're taught that failure should be avoided at all costs. And that if we're not automatically good at something, we are doomed to be terrible forever and should therefore avoid even trying. Writing a story, though, isn't anything like solving a geometry equation. We're not solving for X. There isn't a right answer. Creativity, by its very nature, requires risk and failure, a string of failure over and over and over. I said a few episodes ago, I had to restart a novel like 4 times in 2021. And that failure is part of what leads you to the right, quote unquote, right answer, something that feels good. So my favorite solution, if this is the reason that you're stuck, is to let yourself get really silly. Come up with 10 possible places the story could go next. The more bizarre and ridiculous, the better. Once your brain sees that it's okay to be wrong, it will offer up ideas that you'll actually want to use. And if you're still stuck, if that's still like not working, I love playing the game like, 10 ways this book could go, wrong answers only. Just let yourself see that it's okay to experiment and to guess and to try different things. And that brings us to cause number 4. And that is when you doubt your ability to tell this story. So if this is you, you probably have an inner monologue that sounds a little something like this. I'll never figure this out. Why did I think I could do this? The story is too complicated for me. I'm not smart enough. First, part of your solution is just knowing that doubt is normal. We all have doubts. And as we grow as a writer, we do tend to stretch ourselves to the limit of our current abilities. So we're always sort of butting up against this doubt, which doesn't feel great, but is actually a good thing because it means we are growing and evolving as a writer. So when you do catch yourself in the doom spiral of not being good enough, you can try to shift your thoughts to things like, all writers have doubts sometimes. I don't need to know the entire story to write the next scene. I'll become good enough through the process of writing this book. Now, a note of caution, be careful not to try to force yourself to some overly positive mantra. We just want to find something better than I'm doomed. We don't necessarily need to go to I am the best writer in the whole world. Neutral is much better than I'm doomed. And one of my favorite thoughts is, if I wasn't capable of writing the story, I wouldn't have been able to come up with the concept. Or when that doesn't work, I'll add an addendum of I can grow to be good enough. And then finally, our 5th and last cause of writer's block is this. You, my friend, are too damn tired to think. Sometimes we are just tired. We're humans, not writing machines. If you find yourself drifting off and losing focus or chugging caffeine to get through a writing session, if you can't even bring yourself to open the manuscript, you might just be tired. And the solution here is super simple, but it's one that's often hard for us to allow ourselves to do. I want you to give yourself permission to rest without feeling guilty about it. Take a nap. Go for a walk. Snuggle your pets or loved ones. When you are rested, ideas will flow again. We tend to think that rest is for the weak, or that if we rest whenever we're tired, we'll never finish our novels. The truth, though, is the opposite. If we want a sustainable writing career, we need to be able to take breaks. Pushing ourselves to keep creating, even when we're physically, mentally, and emotionally tired, is a huge risk factor for getting burnt out. And if we get burnt out, then we have to take these much longer breaks to even heal ourselves, and ultimately we end up writing less. So to summarize, the 5 main causes of writer's block are: 1, the story is going in the wrong direction. 2, you're putting too much pressure on yourself. 3, you think there's a right way, aka you're afraid to do it wrong. 4, you doubt your ability to write this story. And 5, you are too damn tired to think. Once you can figure out the cause of your block, you can implement a tailored solution to get the words flowing again without working yourself into the ground. If you're not on my newsletter yet, make sure you sign up, because the first email you get from me is a free PDF that outlines these 5 causes and the solutions we talked about today. So you can check the link in the description and make sure you get that so you can print it out and have it for you to look at anytime you need. And if you're ready to love writing again, I invite you to join my 4-month coaching program, where you'll learn to trust your creative instincts and will burnout-proof your entire career. You'll learn more at my website, isabelsterling.com, and schedule a call with me to learn more about it. Until next time, happy writing!